All right, so we'll bring in Tulas in just a moment, but let's stay with this particular story and bring in Tebogo Khaas, who is, of course, with, for in SA Interest SA. And when you think about the fact that, just a caveat as far as Tebogo is concerned, because Tebogo, I have to tell the viewers, you just as, a founder of and chairperson of Public Interest SA have laid your own complaints against an advocate, Andrea Johnson, but it is a separate matter. It is about something that came out from the IDAC committee about her sitting in that interview, that panel interview, as far as the, the interview with her husband is concerned. But that is not where we're going to go today. I just want us to talk about just her time on the stand today, because you've got different views. Other people say she appeared visibly emotional. Other people say she appeared subdued, but others are saying that she was able to regain some kind of confidence towards the end of the day. From your vantage point, what were you reading into her as a witness?
Thank you for that introduction, Bongiwe. And certainly it was fascinating watching Advocate Andrea Johnson deliver her testimony today. Before I proceed, I must say that come 9:30, South Africa breathed a collective sigh of relief when they in fact saw her present herself, because even in the morning, one couldn't be sure that indeed nothing would happen that could prevent her from coming through. And indeed she did come through. What we believe was actually happening today was just laying the lay of the land, or the scene for what will probably unfold in the coming 2 or 3 days, or however long a testimony will run through. But what was also important was also for the evidence leader, Advocate Sello, to establish the parameters. What is she going to answer, and what is it that she's going to plead the fifth, if I may use the American term, where she might say, I don't want to self-incriminate myself. But it was also narrowed to specific issues where she might want to claim that right protection, because especially when, as you mentioned, there are matters that may very well be of a criminal nature that could be charges that could be preferred against her. The decision is still with the NPA. Having said that, there was not very much today, save to set the scene and also go through her 3 statements that she has prepared and give for give and take some of the clarity-seeking questions by the commissioners themselves.
When you stay with that that decision by her to invoke her self-incrimination rights, what are you reading into that? Because others are saying that it is quite an interesting move, given the fact that it also became a subject of much debate, but within the commission itself.
Yeah, I think Advocate Sello managed to deal with that very professionally and well enough to ensure that she conceded that she will answer truthfully any and all questions, except, of course, on instances where such evidence may actually be linked to the charges that she expects to be facing if indeed the NPA decides to prefer those charges that apparently they're looking at in the current matter. And that, having said that, you would obviously also understand that she would want to be very circumspect and cagey in terms of what it is that she let out. But one thing that became also very clear is that she wanted to shift blame away from her to some of her colleagues, especially in today's testimony as it relates to Kenwa Padayachi's testimony regarding the Section 27 referral letter, which she claims that he ought and he should have actually been in receipt of that letter as part of his investigation, or that triggered the investigation that Padayachi conducted. And that, for me, is a question of either she's throwing her subordinate under the bus, or the subordinate got it also wrong, in which case the commission might actually recall him to come and take the stand again. But having said that, in the event that it is her who's throwing a subordinate under the bus, it means that her integrity ought to be questioned, and it just piles on the representations or the accusations or charges that we've been seeking through the representation, that she must be called to account and her scrutiny to whether her fitness to hold office is really improper. And that for us is something that we hope that it is not her being mischievous or playing fast and loose with the truth insofar as putting a subordinate under the bus. But we'll see as the evidence unfolds, especially day 2 tomorrow and subsequently. That's when the real composure will tell whether she's still composed or whether or not she will start cracking. And yes, indeed, today at some point I was wondering whether she was tearing up or choking, but it turns out no, she was just fine. But we will see. She was just measured and maybe making sure that she doesn't rush herself into missteps.
When you look at the allegations here, and important to note, these are still allegations at this stage, but these are serious allegations nonetheless, right? Because it is the IDAC here, which is an entity that is critical in the fight against corruption. And then at the same time, crime intelligence, yet another critical entity as far as law enforcement is concerned. How damaging are these allegations and counter allegations that are playing out in the public domain, especially to, South Africans who are watching this in horror, given the fact that when we look at various, surveys that are done, South Africans are starting to lose faith when it comes to public institutions?
Yeah, public confidence is at a low, and I think through the processes like the commission itself, it is envisaged that it will help buttress public interest or improve public interest. Public confidence in the criminal justice system. But one cannot help but ask yourself, Bongiwe, why would you go to IDAC or to Advocate Johnson and report to and make a protected disclosure as a whistleblower or as a witness, knowing full well that the likelihood that information getting to the people that are actually after you are high, as we have evidence that was shared, testimony that was shared that she was able to share contents of a docket or allegedly share contents of a docket with Feroz Khan, who was a subject of an inquiry or an investigation. That on its own doesn't do well insofar as public confidence is concerned. And that also supports the 2 researches or surveys results that were produced in the last year or so, where one, public confidence in the police was notched at around 20%. And there was also another survey that was done by the Stats SA, where individuals or households were asked if they had issues that they would like to report, would they go to the police station? And overwhelming majority said no, they can't. And even on a daily basis, public interest does receive complaints, even from within the police themselves, even from within other strategic areas of criminal justice system per se. And we ask ourselves, if the level of trust within the institutions themselves is as low as it is, what it is left for you and I, we saw yesterday or the day before a policeman allegedly letting illegal people out of their van at a field so they can go, ostensibly after receiving a bribe. So it means you cannot go to police to even do the work that they ought to be doing, because here we are, we've got a head of an institution that is supposed to be countering corruption, being the one that is actually allegedly being corrupt and showing the contents of sharing the contents of a docket or witness statement with the subject of an investigation. How bad, how worse can it ever get?
Indeed, and quite serious, these allegations. But as you say, let's wait for day 2 then and see what comes out from the Commission. Appreciate your time. Tebogo Khaas, founder and chairperson of Public Interest SA.